Karen retrial, day 16. Here's what happened in court today. Back on the stand was Miss Hartnett, the forensic scientist, and she testified about the testing done on John O'Keefe's shirt and hoodie. Alessi displayed an evidence bag that Hartnett received with the two articles of clothing in them. The bag said the evidence was collected by Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor. She was asked about whether she knew about the journey the items took before she received them, and she said she did not. Alessi asked about items collected from Karen Reed's SUV, and Hartnett said she submitted those to the lab along with the swabs from the red solo cups and the drinking glass. She said the hoodie and t shirt were submitted by the DA's office. Next on the stand was Dr. Squirty Bello, and she's the medical examiner that performed John's autopsy. She confirms that for the autopsy, she worked with a team that consists of medical examiner, assistant, toxicology lab, and a neuropathologist. So the things that really stuck out is not just the abrasions on the outer part of the arm, but that he had a scratch in the inner part of his arm. So the taillight not only jacked up the outside of his arm, but it somehow got on the inside too. Be for real. He had abrasions on his right knee, bruises on the back of his right hand, and faint scratch on the back of his left hand. Laceration and tear above the right eyelid, and abrasion scrapes on the anterior of the left of the nose. There was bleeding and some swelling of both of his eyes. During the defense's cross examination, they asked her if she was familiar with the name Michael Proctor. She says yes, and then confirms that Proctor informed the medical examiner's office of the police department's working theory of how O'Keefe died. Alessi then questions her about the hypothermia and says, did you consider why there may have been other reasons of reaching the temperature of 80 degrees? And she says, other than being out in the snow, no, I did not. He then asked her regarding the head injury if she had seen any evidence of grass. And she says, I did not see evidence of grass. He goes back to asking her about the hypothermia and says, hypothermia is a very difficult diagnosis to make, correct? Correct, she says. He asks if John O'Keefe had any signs of frostbite, and she says no. He then asks her about the laceration on the right eye, and she confirms that the injury could not have happened if he had fallen back and hit his head. She does testify that it could be consistent with a punch. He asks her the same thing about the abrasion on the nose. Could this happen from him falling back and hitting his head? And of course, she says no. Then Brennan does redirect with her. He starts off by asking her how many autopsies she's performed. She says over 1,200. She then explains it's common for bodies to come without clothing if a person was treated at the hospital first. And this was addressed because the defense had questioned whether she had ever seen O'Keefe's clothing, and she had testified that no. He asked her about pedestrian crashes and what's most common in these cases. He's asking about when a person is clipped or sideswiped and the expectations of those injuries. They wrapped up early and sent jurors home for the day, and they then, the prosecution was discussing the ARCA stuff with the judge.